It was a calm, sunny morning at the rental cabin on the edge of my property. The lake glimmered in the distance, birds chirped in the trees, and my family was preparing for a weekend getaway. Peace, however, was about to be interrupted by the notorious Karen number 29. She had arrived with her typical arrogance, clipboard in hand, and a plan as audacious as it was absurd. Karen had somehow decided that my rental cabin should be hers, or more accurately, hers to assign. She had given it to her son, as if ownership and authority could be transferred by mere whim. Her entourage followed, cameras rolling, convinced they were about to assert dominance over property that was not theirs. I was on the porch when I saw them approach. Calmly, I stepped forward, holding up the deed to the property and gesturing toward the steel fence I had recently installed. "Ma'am, you are trespassing," I said evenly. "This cabin is fully owned and controlled by me. Any attempt to occupy or assign it is illegal." Karen laughed, the sound high-pitched and self-assured. "Oh, come on. We're just taking it for my son. It's harmless. You can't stop us." I smiled calmly. "Actually, I can. And I have." Her smirk faltered as she took in the sight of the newly erected steel fence, extending from the cabin to the property line, straight to her HOA office downtown. The design was deliberate, a steel barrier that not only protected the cabin but symbolically connected back to her own headquarters. Any attempt to trespass or exert authority now had a literal barrier to contend with. "You can't," she began, but I interrupted. "I suggest you and your son leave immediately. Your access has been cut off. Any further attempt to enter will be considered criminal trespassing. Cameras are recording everything, and law enforcement has been notified in advance." Her minions hesitated, glancing nervously at the imposing steel fence and the clearly documented property boundaries. Karen's child, oblivious to the implications, tried to step toward the cabin, but I held up my hand. "Do not cross. You will be detained by law enforcement if you do." Panic started to set in. Karen had assumed that entitlement could override law and preparation, but she now realized her plan was utterly futile. The steel fence wasn't just physical. It was a statement of control, strategy, and authority. Every attempt to circumvent it would be recorded, documented, and addressed legally. She tried a last-ditch effort, attempting to call in a contractor to remove the fence. I calmly held up the deed and legal permits, showing that any removal without my consent would be destruction of private property, carrying severe consequences. Her confidence crumbled. The reality of her position sank in. She could not assert control over what wasn't hers. Within minutes, my son had positioned himself at a vantage point, ensuring no unauthorized entry, while my daughter recorded the entire encounter. Karen's entourage began to retreat, muttering threats that carried no weight against law and preparation. She was left staring at the fence in frustration, realizing that her gift to her son had been nullified by strategy, authority, and the undeniable reality of ownership. By late afternoon, the rental cabin was secure. The fence stood as a monument to preparation, strategy, and lawful authority. My family gathered on the porch, watching the sun glint off the steel, appreciating not only the beauty of the lake but the security and control we had maintained. Karen number 29 had underestimated both the physical and legal measures in place. She had assumed entitlement and audacity would suffice, only to encounter preparedness, documentation, and calm enforcement. The lesson was unmistakable. Property cannot be commandeered through bluster, and authority must be earned, not assumed. As evening settled over the property, the lake reflected shades of pink and gold. My family was safe, the cabin secure, and the HOA had learned, again, that attempts to overreach would meet with consequences, creativity, and decisive authority. Karen number 29 would likely replay the morning endlessly, realizing too late that preparation always wins against entitlement.